Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
Later this week, the UN is going to hold a, quote, summit for the future. And they're going to produce, this is right from their website, an intergovernmentally negotiated, action-oriented pact for the future with a chapter on transforming global governance. Ascending beyond the powers being sought by its subordinate agency, the WHO, the UN is seeking even broader and more powerful authority, as you will hear a lot about today. The Biden-Harris administration apparently intends to fully support the surrender and compliance of the U.S. to the UN in these endeavors.
Well, what do you know? I'm late to the party again. This happened just a couple weeks ago, and I guess their whole goal was supporting the needs of current and future generations by sending a whole bunch of money to other countries. Good job.
Did you know that there's a planet out there that could be made almost entirely of diamonds? This incredible planet, known as 55 Cancri E, is nearly twice the size of Earth, and it's believed to be composed largely of carbon, specifically in the form of diamond. What's even more fascinating is that this planet has almost the same mass as Jupiter, one of the giants of our solar system. However, it's not a place you'd want to visit. Surface temperatures reach over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The universe is full of wonders, and 55 Cancri E proves there's still so much to discover.
I don't know about you, but I find it so fascinatingly mind-boggling how astronomers are able to look at something so far away and use science and math and light and all kinds of other smart stuff to hypothesize what these planets or these rocks are made of. And this planet is supposedly made of like diamond. That's incredible.
It's your weekly video. What if I told you that politicians were siphoning more political power to rural conservative districts by counting as constituents people confined in prison there? Sounds illegal, right? Sounds like it should be a scandal. It's actually not. It's a thing called prison gerrymandering. And in a ton of states, it's totally legal. The way it works is people are taken often from major cities where they are arrested, and they are confined way out in the boonies in a prison. People in prison are usually not allowed to vote, but they are counted in the census of that rural district to define how much representation and how much political power that district gets. So these districts that have prisons in them have a huge incentive to keep that prison full, because the fullness of that prison and the silenced non-voting voices within that prison are what gives that rural jurisdiction power and political representation. It is hugely messed up. It creates really bad incentives for politicians from that district, not to represent the interests of people confined there, but to keep the prison as full as possible to hold on to their own political power. This remains a massive problem in the US, and here's what drives me crazy. The US Census Bureau could just end this problem. They could just say, hey, when we take the census, we're going to count incarcerated people by the district they came from, not the district where they are involuntarily confined. They could do that anytime they want. We're still waiting.
Gerrymandering is a huge political tool, and I think it is absolutely ridiculous. And using the prisons like that, that's just disgusting. Oh, gotta keep the prisons full so we can have a higher population. Oh, no. No.
So you can steal an election if you're good at gerrymandering. You've heard the term, but here is a basic understanding of what gerrymandering actually is. So imagine you have a square state like this, and each of these red and blue sections has the same amount of people in each of them. And further, imagine that the people in the blue sections vote for the Democratic Party and the people in the red sections vote for the Republican Party. If the state was able to elect 4 people to Congress and you were in charge, then you'd probably split up the state like this. That way, you would elect 2 people from the Democratic Party and 2 people from the Republican Party, and your elected officials will be reflective of the people in the state. Makes sense, right? Now, if you were in charge and you wanted to steal one of these seats, you might instead split up your state like this. It seems kind of wonky, but each of these strategically drawn districts is actually the same size. And now, in this made-up scenario, Republicans would still only receive about half of the vote, but they would receive more than half of the representation. Instead of receiving just 2 seats, they would receive 3. They will have stolen a seat. Now, you might think this is unfair, but in a 2019 Supreme Court case, gerrymandering is only really unconstitutional if it's racially motivated. But if it's just politicians trying to get a political advantage, as of right now, you better just hope that your state has some way to address it. As always, there's more to this subject. If you have questions, let me know in the comments.
And that is why I think gerrymandering is absolutely ridiculous. That's not all that's ridiculous. There's a lot of ridiculous stuff going on in our government. Why don't you let me know what you think is ridiculous, and I'll cover it in an upcoming episode. I'm sure you got some great ideas.
You probably heard this 1,000 times, and you're going to hear it 1,000 more. When it comes to the presidential election in the United States, polls don't really matter. We have a very stupid system called the Electoral College, so polls aren't terribly useful. At most, they're these little snapshots of a moment in time, and even then, when you're looking at who is being polled, it's opt-in. The people being polled are choosing to allow themselves to be polled, and that makes them iffy even at the best of times. And amongst all polls, national polls are the least useful. Because again, we have a very dumb system where the winner of the most votes doesn't actually win. It's the winner of the Electoral College that wins. So national polls mean very little when you can win the Electoral College but not win the popular vote.
Yeah, polls are pretty dumb. They don't actually represent what's going on. Besides, 72% of all statistics are completely made up on the spot.
I think that the Electoral College is not only outdated, but I think it's been outdated for a couple of hundred years already. Within a decade after the writing of the Constitution, the Electoral College was not functioning the way that the framers had envisioned in at least two respects. The first was that in their original conception, the notion was that these would be informed men or women, actually men, and that they would come together and deliberate about the various candidates. But that deliberation notion was gone by the end of the 1790s, and electors had basically just become human messengers, which made their role really unnecessary. The second thing that happened was that the Constitution established that states could choose electors in the manner that they so desired. And in the original conception, as far as we know, most of the framers thought that electors would be chosen by district within the states. But what happened was that the states started gaming the system. Some did districts, some used winner-take-all. In a number of states, the legislature decided to choose electors by itself without even consulting the people, so that by 1800, 1802, it was already apparent that the Electoral College was not working well. There were major reform efforts, some of which got very close between 1800 and 1825. And it has been an unpopular institution, often called cumbersome, throughout the 19th century and the 20th century. So is it outdated? Yes, and it's been outdated for a very long time.
And we're still using it. So it's not really the voice of the people, it's the voice of these people. Hey, thanks so much for stopping by today. If you're having a good time, won't you hit that like button for me? It'll really help out my channel. And if you haven't already, would you consider subscribing and then come back tomorrow? Because I'm making a new episode every day.
Missouri CDC investigating possible human-to-human bird flu spread. Get ready, folks. This could be it. Today, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention investigators in Missouri were looking into 8 possible human infections of bird flu virus after the state reported its first case last month. If confirmed, the cases would mark the first instance of human-to-human bird flu transmission in the country. At least one household member and 6 healthcare workers who encountered the index case patient are being investigated after showing symptoms of viral infection. A week ago, the CDC noted that only 2 healthcare workers who had contact with the Missouri patient had symptoms. So far, 14 human H5N1 cases have been reported in the United States this year, most all but one in agricultural workers who were in close contact with cattle. Human-to-human transmission would be like the dam opening. It would be the start of the fall.
I always thought it was going to be the food, but human to human transmission would be crazy. Could be the start of the rollout, if you know what I'm saying.
Possible human to human transmission. It has evolved. And what is going on right now? The bird flu summit. I'm just saying.
Hey guys, it's Angry Concrete Mixer Man here, and so there's some things going on that are real troubling, and call me wrong, but I'm predicting are going to cause inflation to come back with a vengeance. You know, first off, we have millions of birds, hens that lay eggs, having to be culled because they have bird flu. So the price of eggs is through the roof right now. Secondly, we got all the chickens that were meat chickens down in the Appalachian area just absolutely devastated. And that area itself is absolutely devastated in the roadways and everything. And that's a main area of getting through back and forth over the Appalachians. That's going to make it harder and more costly to ship. Third, the longshoremen. And they're doing their strike thing. I wish them well. But it's going to make it very, very expensive to get products, and it's going to make it very expensive to ship products. Because you got to think, everybody on the West Coast is going to be taking in as much as they can, shipping it across the nation on trucks and trains that normally already have enough crap on them. Inflation's coming back. I'm making a prediction right now. I'm not looking forward to it, guys.
How is inflation going to come back if it hasn't even left? Everything is just getting more and more pricey, and companies are putting things in smaller and smaller packages, yet still charging you the same amount or more. Oh, update on the port strike.
The port strike has just ended, and the longshoremen will return to ports Friday following a tentative wage agreement. The strike went on for 2 days, almost 3, costing the U.S. almost $15 billion. The deal extends the expired contract to January 15th, allowing work to resume until final details are negotiated. 50,000 union members have been on strike since Tuesday, disrupting U.S. container imports and exports. But that is all over right now. So you won't be seeing any more of these videos.
The same line this long at Costco. It's freaking massive.
Until probably January 15th, but hopefully not. Hopefully the longshoremen and the companies that they work for come to an agreement and everything goes smoothly. But was this a W for the longshoremen or a W for the companies that are no longer losing $5 billion a day? Let me know in the comments. Like, share, and follow, and we are watching Paul News.
So hey y'all out there clearing all the shelves of toilet paper. Good job. Do you have enough toilet paper now? Because everything seems to be fine. My husband actually told me that they had negotiated for a 61% raise. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Apple just announced that in their next upgrade coming this fall that they're going to actually put ChatGPT on every iPhone to collect and analyze all the data of yours that's flowing through an iPhone if you're using it. We did a side-by-side test between our phone and Google and Apple's. The Google and Apple phones seem to wake up between 2 and 3 at night, and they have this huge, like a 50 megabyte data dump that's sent out from the phone every night, sending off your preferences, everything you've done that day. Average kid in America, by the time they reach the age of 13, has had 72 million data points collected on them by big tech.
Wow.
Using that advertising ID.
Wow.
Each Google or Apple phone has a 32-digit advertising ID. Mm-hmm. It's a code. Some could call it the mark of the beast that follows that device around everywhere. And that's how the tech companies track where that device goes to figure out proximity for advertising, sales, and who you're interacting with in your schedule.
These big tech companies just finding newer and better ways on how to make more money off of us. Because they're just selling your information to advertisers, and these little guys we keep in our pocket are just getting us a little bit closer to the New World Order.
Let's talk about iOS 18 and the risks and controversy associated with it. This iOS update isn't due out until September, and there's already a ton of controversy, and for good reason. But hear me out. I really want your opinion on this. Most of the controversy is in relation to the complete revamp of Siri. And where the controversy comes in is because of the combination of ChatGPT 4.0 and Siri to basically combine into what they're calling AI Apple Intelligence. Now, we know when we agree to terms of service on our phone that they're tracking our keystrokes. There's been times that microphones have been turned on or cameras and different data breaches. So we all understand that. But I think the big step forward with Siri is the fact that we are now going to allow Siri total access to everything on our phone. So Siri will know when we sleep, when we're awake, the restaurants we like to go to. It'll know where we like to go, the photos we take, the vacation spots we love. And the risk versus reward here is what's in question. You know, you're going to be able to have everything brought to you, so to speak, and your phone will probably know you as well as you know yourself. But where do we draw the line? What data is too much? I didn't like the journaling app because I didn't want the phone to know my deepest thoughts and concerns and all of the different things that I don't input into the phone. But with the introduction of AI, there's going to be very few areas that this phone doesn't understand about us. Let me know your thoughts.
So if you have an iPhone, which I do, I have 2 iPhones. We all have iPhones in my family. But if you have an iPhone, remember when you updated it to iOS 18 and you read that entire, 25 pages of the contract? Yeah, no, of course you didn't. Nobody does. You just hit agree. But that's what's in there, along with a host of other things.
They're facing a judge accused of running over a police officer.
These are very serious charges against this young man, but we're learning these charges may end up being dropped because his father works for the Israeli consulate here in Miami. But this supposed immunity is under question tonight. This is 19-year-old Abraham Gill's mugshot. He was arrested after police say he ran over a cop. Sunny Isles Beach police say it happened over the weekend. The police report says an officer was conducting a traffic stop on Collins Avenue near 174th Street. The officer reportedly spotted Gill on a motorcycle weaving in and out of traffic and gave him loud, verbal, lawful commands to stop. The officer claiming not only did Gill ignore him, he says the young man on the motorcycle intentionally ran him over. The policeman survived, but detectives say his leg was incapacitated. Gill was arrested and charged for resisting an officer with violence and aggravated assault on a cop. But when he got to court, they let him go home.
Mr. Gill is a diplomat son. He has consular immunity.
Turns out Gill is the son of Eli Gill, a consul for administration under the Consulate General for Israel in Miami.
That is absolutely ridiculous. Wrong is wrong, no matter who your daddy is.
With the battery packs in the human body. On one side, it's how many electrons are we putting in? And there are a lot of electron donors. Electron donors can be getting out in the sun, can be walking barefoot in the grass. It can be leaning up your body up against a tree because the tree has electrons and will donate them to you. Hugging an animal. A common way that makes people in nursing homes feel better is to buy them a dog or a cat. They hold the dog or the cat and get electrons from it. The animal runs outside and recharges itself and brings some back to you. Moving water is an electron donor, whereas still water tends to be an electron stealer. Moving air is an electron stealer. That's why when you ride in a convertible, you look really cool, but you're always tired when you get there because the wind steals electrons from you. On one hand, we look at what things can put electrons in the body, and then what things steal them. And again, the most common stealers are dental infections, emotional baggage, various toxins, particularly the toxins that we are getting from things like GMO foods and pesticides and other kinds of things, air pollution. There's a lot of toxins around us. And of course, one can almost include in the concept emotional baggage. They're toxins in a different way in that they rob us of voltage that we should be using for something else.
This is one of the more interesting topics that I've learned since starting this channel, how everything is connected to the earth and how you get charge or you lose charge based on your surroundings, your environment. And it is absolutely fantastic. And I love it.
So the EPA is now admitting that chlorine gas is filling the air in a huge radius around the Conyers, Georgia Biolab chemical plant that went up in flames in this big explosion just the other day. I'm getting messages from people in the area saying that when they step outside and even when they're inside, everything smells like burnt chemicals. There's a heaviness to the air. This is a very dangerous situation. This is unrestricted chemical warfare being waged against the American people by our government, who has abandoned these people just like they've abandoned Hurricane Helene victims, and by their private equity counterparts like BlackRock, who's tied to this facility. This facility is also tied into the Rothschild money, to Blackstone money, Israeli money. This is a bad situation.
Pretty much any event anywhere can be tied back to those groups and their money. But in a more serious event, the wind is expected to shift this weekend, and they're saying that Atlanta will be covered by a haze, and it'll be funky smelling and not good for Atlanta this weekend. So if you're out there, be careful.
At the end of March, Elon Musk and 2,600 other tech leaders signed a letter calling for an immediate pause on ChatGPT's continued development, saying that it has possible negative impacts on human life. But you know what big tech bigwig didn't sign the letter and instead has been raving around town about how great this technology is going to be for the world? You guessed it, Bill Gates. Everyone knows by now that Bill Gates owns a ton of farmland in the United States, about 270,000 acres. And for years, people have been trying to figure out what motivated him to do this. People have speculated and wondered if it has to do with food supply or possibly water supply because of the aquifers that are underneath the land that he purchased. But what does this have to do with ChatGPT and AI? Well, the celebrity blinds website Crazy Days and Nights revealed this blind yesterday, and it may give us the answers we've been looking for. The wealthy farmer, that's Bill Gates, can take the tool he stole from a nonprofit, that's OpenAI, who made ChatGPT, and turn it into a profit maker. And with the tool, he can be the majority supplier of food and drinking water to the world. He would control who gets what. On March 21st, Bill wrote this about AI on his blog, Gates Notes. It will change the way people work, learn, travel, get healthcare, and communicate with each other. Entire industries will reorient around it. Businesses will distinguish themselves by how well they use it. I wonder if some of the industries he could be talking about could be the food and water industries. Let me know what you think down below.
So I just learned yesterday, thank you, Randy, by the way, about these aquifers underneath all of this property that he's buying up. Freaking shady, if you ask me. And as far as this whole ChatGPT thing, this happened last year. And it's pretty much come to fruition, hasn't it?
For years, Starbucks didn't publish their ingredients for their coffee drinks. It was a mystery until I convinced a barista to show me the ingredients on the back of the bottles they were using to make menu items like their famous pumpkin spice lattes. I found out here in the United States, Starbucks was coloring their PSLs with caramel coloring level 4, an ingredient made from ammonia and linked to cancer, but using beta-carotene from carrots to color their drinks in the UK. After publishing an investigation and widespread media attention, Starbucks removed caramel coloring from all of their drinks in America and started publishing the ingredients for their entire menu.
For years, it was not fall until I had that pumpkin spice latte. Nothing was better to me than pumpkin season. And then I became a carnivore. But that is still an example of what a self-regulated corporation can do to the American food. Whatever the heck they want. So way to go, FDA. On that note, I'm going to call it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Please come on back tomorrow. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.